Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webcast. My name is Brooke Bacon, Business Development Manager at GSI, and I am very pleased to welcome our main presenter, Tom Gabriel. Now, before we get started, I wanted to give you a chance to review our Safe Harbor statement. Now, for a quick overview of today's meeting, which will last about 50 to 55 minutes, first, we will go over a couple of housekeeping items, as well as provide a brief company overview. Then I'll turn the time over to Tom for our main presentation, which will last about 40 minutes. Then I will go over some of our upcoming educational events, and then we will wrap up with a 10-minute question and answer session. If you'd like to submit a question, you can do so through the question panel at the bottom of the GoToWebinar console, located on the right side of your screen. Please note that questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. So if you would like to minimize your console during the presentation, just click the right-facing arrow on the top of the left of the console. Clicking the left arrow, you will return the console so that you can input questions. And now I'd like to give you a brief overview of GSI. GSI is a full-service ERP consulting organization. We are an Oracle Platinum partner that was founded in 2004 and now has over 100 employees. We have offices nationwide and are recognized in the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies in the U.S. GSI specializes in project consulting, managed services, as well as cloud and hosting services, with all of our services backed with 100% guarantee. In addition, we are a product development company that has many popular products, including Genius, which is our advanced monitoring and performance analytics solution for any business critical system on any platform. Genesis, which is a load and stress testing application for system design, validation, or expansion for any web-based business critical system. G Shield, which is our comprehensive security solution. Rapid Approval, which is a workflow approval tool. JDE Cloud 9, which is a private hosting solution, and Rapid Reconciler, which is our comprehensive inventory reconciliation solution. And now I would like to turn things over to Tom for our main presentation.
Well, thank you so much, Brooke. Just let me know when you can see my screen, and then we'll go on from there.
All right, Tom, I can see your screen.
Thank you so much. First and foremost, everybody, Happy New Year. For those of you on the East Coast, I hope you're staying warm. For those of us up in the upper Northeast, it is a bit chilly. So with that, let's move forward and let's talk about ERP systems. Let's talk about some of the challenges, some of the considerations. And what I'm going to be talking to you about today are several things. Just overall ERP understanding and, what to look for, how to go about navigating the waters to select and implement an ERP system. But at the same time, I'm going to share with you some statistics from last year that were put together by organizations regarding companies that implemented ERP and some of the pitfalls and challenges that they had and things of that nature. So we'll cover a lot of different topics as we move through the presentation. So first and foremost, what I'd like to say is, what was an ERP system? And I think it's very important for us to realize the word was, because back in the day, the ERP systems looked to serve and solve each department's needs, and they look to do that by moving everything into one singular computer software system. So now you had all these departments that had their standalone systems that they were using, and they looked to turn around and get one single integrated software solution running off of one single database that looked to solve those same solutions that were there in the past. And they tried to do all that and easily communicate throughout the organization all of that data, all of the findings. So in effect, you implemented base components and you look to enhance that within that ERP solution. And if you did it the right way, then it was a heavily justified system. But that was back in the day. So if you look at what the true definition of what ERP is supposed to be, ERP is supposed to be a commercial software package that you can buy off the shelf. It's supposed to provide you some seamless integration of all your information that can help flow that data through the organization, regardless if it's coming from finance, distribution, if it's coming from CRM, whatever. They're meant to be configurable systems that are letting you do what you need to do in the business, all while integrating this information and process across other functional areas. So they're supposed to serve each particular area. They're, again, computer-based systems. They're meant to facilitate real-time integrated planning, production, and customer response information. All of that on one database, one application, with a seamless interface for all the users in the organization. Well, if you look at it, you had your people, you had your positions, you had your process, you had everything that was important to them, you had an infrastructure that was looking to grow and wrap itself around all of that, you had your various job roles and business process, you had third-party applications and some modifications, minimal amounts, and you tried to get best practice, customer requirements, all cutting edge type of things in one holistic view of the enterprise. So that's what ERP systems were looking to provide, and ERP systems were looking to do back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. But if we look, what's happened? What's happened is we have a bunch of new digital tools and technology. We have businesses where process in their business model and their organization is changing. You have to have better performance to stay ahead of your competitors. And you need to look at your strategic opportunities and challenges in the market. So ERP vendors were saying to themselves, wait a minute, you know, with all of these things that are happening, we can no longer look to just serve the business need. We need to serve other people's needs as well. We need to look at our customers, our consumers, and we need to say, what is it that they're looking to get out of the packages that I'm employing? So functional units started saying to themselves, well, wait a minute, I need to have my own unique thing again so that I can look at my own functional area for better decision making, for better timeliness of information and accountability. What happens if I'm a division that has unique regulatory requirements? Or I deal with a lot of vendors and customers that they need certain information from me. They needed all of that information. They needed to blend it all together. And they needed it to still be an efficient system. And you had to get that right information at the right time. So today's day and age, business and lines of business are looking for that. So back in the day, when the first word processor came out, everybody thought that was a great thing. That was in the mid-70s. But now if you look, how do people enter data? How do people interact with data? They interact based on any number of different type of technology. And what about the data and how it's stored and where people put it? Before, you know, it could be any print kind of format, could be any kind of disk or things of that nature. But even the data, where it's being stored now, is changing. And what about people accessing that data? You can access data anywhere in the world versus before, where you literally had to be on site within your four walls. You no longer need to be coupled to your organization's physical environment. You need the ability to be able to be anywhere, do anything at any time. And you need to be able to take all that information that you need with you wherever you go. So your systems now have to be scalable. They have to be able to be tuned to do what you need them to do, We need to stop looking at data and systems as being a one-way street through a funnel. We now need to look at our systems and our data and our people as being free-flowing across the board, being able to be accessed by any number of things. So when we think about ERP systems now, we have to think of them being more than just a one holistic opportunity. We have to look at them as being an on-premise solution with some applications, maybe utilizing some other type of cloud-based solution, and or even looking to say, wait a minute, maybe I need to take them off-premise and I need them to be hosted so that I can let my IT department and my other groups do what they should do versus just caring for one particular system or one particular, software package. Maybe I need to be able to offload that to other organizations. So now, today's ERP needs to do a lot more. Today's ERP needs the ability for us to become what? Machine to machine. We need to be able to get information directly from our production line or directly from our trucks or directly from a badge that somebody wears on the shop floor where they can scan it in and actually record what their time is for any given production run. We need to be able to have our ERP system easily integrate to other things, be they applications, be they other software, be they whatever. We need to be able to get outside the four walls and be mobile. We need to be able what? To meet our consumer. We need to be able to become more social. We need to be able to act with the people that we deal with to make them happy and to make them know that we understand what's going on. We need all of that data to be processed by a system that weeds through everything we don't need to tell me, hey, this is what I should or shouldn't do. So you see from this chart that your ERP systems need to do a lot more than simply provide you a means to enter data and regurgitate data back out. So we have to take that one holistic view, and we have to say that when we consider an ERP system, we need to consider that the value now becomes how I can take that one core ERP system, but yet integrate and interrelate to various other applications or systems that I might need in my organization to do my job. So Gartner turns around and Gartner says to us that current ERP implementations, they're not going to vanish. However, they need to adapt because your CEOs, your C-level people still want that reliable integrated solution that the ERP systems provide. And your stakeholders in the business want the same thing, but they know that that is in any kind of software solution that's available. So if your system is not flexible enough to move with the times and adapt and integrate, then in effect it's becoming an anchor to your business and it's going to weigh you down and slow you down. Today's ERP suites are being deconstructed. And now what they become is they become a more federated, loosely coupled solution that works with other things like a cloud service or other kind of software solutions. So 2016, we had cloud, right? And when the cloud came out, Gartner said that anybody that stayed on their legacy ERP system or their customized ERP system, those systems were going to be considered a legacy solution. Gartner also said that by 2017, 70% of the organizations that adopted the hybrid ERP still did not improve cost benefit, because what they didn't look at is they didn't look at how they should adjust and how they should update their business process when they implemented their solution. And now all of us are in a service-centric kind of company. We all provide value to some kind of consumer or some kind of, entity. And Gartner is saying by 2018, 30% of those organizations are going to move to the cloud, right? So a single concept ERP that meets everything that your organization needs is going to be considered dead, and it's going to be replaced by a hybrid solution. But be careful. Be careful that if you think your cloud application is going to be the cure-all for you, or some cloud application integrating to your ERP is going to be a cure-all for you, make sure that you don't fall into the rut of thinking that that's all that matters. You have to turn around and you have to understand what your business objectives are. You have to understand what your business processes are. You have to be able to adapt and mold your organization and process to get the best use out of those. So again, what we found, what the pundits have found, is that 2/3 of organizations that have an on-premise solution, those solutions are at least 2 versions old. You're not keeping current with the times. So what do we need to do? We need to understand that my old-fashioned monolithic ERP solution is no longer the solution to move forward. We need to look and evaluate an ERP solution that evaluates and takes into consideration a tiered type of approach. And what do we mean by that? What we mean by that is we have to look and say, okay, we're going to have a core global model. But if I have other divisions, if I have other different lines of business, if I have a different area, of the organization or functional area that needs a niche product, I don't need to look to fit it into that corporate model. I should look to leverage some other cloud or SaaS solution to help remedy that, all while managing and maintaining my core corporate model. And when I look at those other solutions might come from the same ERP vendor I'm dealing with, or might be with a different ERP vendor. It might be an open source system. But again, we're going to talk a little bit later about when you do your evaluations, you want to make sure that you're doing your evaluations correctly and looking at the right thing. So let's talk why 2-tier ERP can help you. Back in the day, this is a model of what people looked at. People said, hey, I have a corporate office. I have multiple other divisions, but I'm just going to turn around and I'm going to make that model into all these other divisions. And regardless, I'm going to have everybody function and adapt and do what we do at corporate. But what happens if corporate, I have a bunch of different divisions that one manufactures, one is a distributor, one provides financial services, another one does something else. Over time, what happened is this vision that we had 10, 12, 15 years ago ended up causing us to look like this. Because a division said, well, wait a minute, I'm just financial services, so I need a different type of package. And some may have been manufacturing, and we said, hey, we need this kind of package. And then all of a sudden what happened is I needed a business intelligence solution to consolidate my data and to report on my data. Well, we want to understand that that is what has to happen. But when you look at your core ERP system, your core ERP system should be one that allows you to have these multiple tiers, all while still moving related data that you need into that core system. So we need to understand that while this schematic here is reality, we need to be able to say that you don't necessarily need a business intelligence solution. You need to have an ERP system that's flexible enough, that has the integration tools that allow you to move the data back and forth, that data that you really need, in a more seamless and timely manner. So if you look at a two-tier ERP strategy, people are predicting that by the year 2025, almost 90% of organizations are going to have some type of multi-tiered solution. Right now, today, they're predicting over 70% of organizations have a multi-tiered solution. They're no longer looked at as being a bad thing, okay? It's a necessity. You just want to make sure that when you select your ERP system and when you look to do your integrations, that you're doing it the right way and you're giving yourself the right opportunity. So let's talk now about evaluation of ERP systems. Most selections take 9 months or longer. Now that's way too long to select an ERP package because most ERP packages are going to do the same thing. They're just different tools that are still going to process your data. You know, manufacturing is manufacturing is manufacturing. If you take this long to evaluate, you're going to run up your cost, your processes may change, the culture in your organization may change. All of this time you're spending is causing you to spend more and more effort and money delaying on any kind of return that you might be able to get. More importantly, you're looking at a solution for a process that may go away. Hence, the solution you pick may not be the right solution. And your organization is falling behind, thereby leading you to get into a competitive disadvantage with your, other people in your space. We need, when we evaluate, to look at the things that are important, to understand what we need to do and to do them in a timely manner. So let's talk about some statistics, right? If we look at ERP implementations and we look at why organizations are doing that, I think we all realize that the top 3 literally are replacing a system that is old and archaic, looking to expand my company and grow my organization, and to improve the performance within my business. But you can see that there's other things that might lead to a second-tier ERP. Well, what happens if I'm only doing business in the States and now all of a sudden I go to Asia and I have statutory or regulatory compliance, right? Or what happens if I go and buy a company and I have to turn around and get a niche application? So there's other reasons for looking to do an ERP system, but the top 3 are basically the ones we all know. And if we look at the people we solicited last year, 81% of them said that they are either in the process or have completed a new implementation of an ERP solution. And 14% said they're in that cycle of trying to pick a solution. And the other 5% said, hey, we're just looking to upgrade the current software and process as is. We're not worried about making any enhancements. So now those reasons to upgrade, you have to look at certain vendors. And when you look at certain vendors, and again, when you look at this chart, you have to understand that this analysis was done over many different organizations and many different verticals in many different sizes, small, medium, large organizations with numbers of people. So your solution or your desire may not necessarily, fall in line with these statistics. But you can see that of all the respondents, they considered these to be the best in class. They considered these other solutions to be a top solution for what they needed. And then they also looked at these other solutions as market leaders. So you can see that there are many different software solutions out there that you can choose from. It's just a question of, where does your organization lie? What do you need to do? And that's what I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Simply don't look at Sage or look at SAP or look at Oracle and say, oh, geez, 90% of the people use that. Well, yeah, they do. But there's other considerations you should look at to make sure that that's the vendor and software that is right for your business. So you may not in your organization have that expertise to decide. Most organizations don't. And the reason they don't is because most organizations are looking to use resources that have been with the company for X number of years. And as people, when we're with a company for X number of years, we become familiar with the process, we become familiar with the software, and we truly may not give the right justice to evaluating what software is right for the business. So you want to make sure that if this is going to be an important event for your organization, that you don't sell yourself short by turning around and utilizing internal resources that may not have the exposure to what's out there in the marketplace now and to what capability certain vendors have and certain software solutions have. You may want to have another resource come in and assist you. Now, when you implement, and this one is a hard pill to swallow, but when you implement, it's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you anywhere from 1 to 5 or more % of your annualized revenue. So think about this. If you're a $250 million company, even if it was 1%, you're talking that your ERP solution can run you $2.5 million. Now, that solution is everything from software to hardware to consultancy to internal costs, server room build out, things like that. But don't be shocked all of a sudden when you see the cost is $2.5 million and you're saying to yourself, my God, it should only be $500,000. You know, we have to understand that on average of everybody we solicited, 6.5% of annual revenue was spent on their ERP solution. It's going to cost money. But the nice part is there's never been any other time where you have so many choices as to what you can use. Again, getting back to those slides a couple of before this one, it's very important because of all these choices for you to make sure that you talk to individuals and talk to organizations and do studies and do your homework to understand which one is really right for your organization. When you ask a vendor to, qualify themselves and you ask them to do demos and things like that, don't ask them for the common stuff like, hey, can you put in a journal entry? Can you cut a check? Every software solution is going to do that. But you ask them that 10% that happens that's unique in your business, that's what you want to be able to understand. Can they do that? You have to look and say to yourself, what are the things in my organization that happen 1, 2, 3 times a month? That's what you want to make sure they can do. Everything else is pretty much consistent. Niche solutions, best of breed, 2-tier deployment, many different ways that you can look to get the software you need to turn around and put them into your organization to make it a flexible solution that gets you a better return on your investment. If you can find one holistic ERP solution that does it all, great. But if you need to bundle some things together, understand that that's an option that's going to make you a better organization. Now, when we talk about ERP systems and we talk about solutions, as of last year, you can still see that on-premise is the lion's share. But it's almost 50-50 now between on-premise, cloud, and SaaS type of software. Why? Because organizations are realizing that when I go to cloud, when I go to SaaS, now I'm getting, a more OpEx kind of budget than a regular CapEx kind of budget. I'm able to utilize my resources and money in other areas more efficiently. So little by little, that's changing, and people are looking now to move away from on-premise and looking more at this, SaaS and cloud-based kind of opportunity. Out of all the vendors, you can see, again, and this should be no surprise to anybody, that the top three that make the short list are the SAP, Oracle, and Microsofts of the world, right? And you can see that, you know, dependent upon the size of your organization and what you're looking to do, yeah, there might be a niche product out there for you to turn around and get. But you're going to see, especially within Oracle, their model is, let me get solutions. By get, I mean purchase. Let me, Oracle, buy solutions that can augment and supplement for those organizations that have a niche solution. Well, I'll purchase one, so maybe I keep everything in my Oracle stack. That's different than SAP. SAP says, let me have a product and let me just keep building upon that product. So different philosophies from different vendors. You know, Microsoft says, let me give you a product that you can customize and make your own. You have to determine, what do you want? Do you want to manage and maintain your software? Do you want to be able to buy and connect different pieces and have one throat to choke, if you will? Or do you want to buy, you know, a software that's been built over time and over time? So when you look at the vendors and you look at when customers selected the software, how satisfied were they? You can see that for the most part, you know, people have been satisfied or very, very satisfied, right? About 50%. But this is the part that concerns me. The part that concerns me is, why are you neutral? Why are you dissatisfied or very dissatisfied? In my opinion, you're neutral, dissatisfied, or very dissatisfied because you didn't understand what it was you were looking to do. You didn't understand, did I need to improve a process? Do I need to be able to enter new markets? Do I need to be able to communicate with my vendors and customers more seamlessly? You didn't do your homework enough to understand, can the software meet what I really needed to do? And I think that's why a lot of these people are where they are. Another benefit of the cloud is it's a reduction in your implementation costs, right? So people are saying that more than half of them deployed their technology and had a savings of at least 20%. Now, if you look at SaaS compared to the cloud, right? Cloud generally becomes a less expensive option over time, right? Because SaaS is a subscription, you're paying over years. Cloud, you can purchase the software still, but have it running in the cloud. Again, you have to do your homework and you have to turn around and you have to say, what am I really looking to do? This is another one. You know, if we look, over 60%, 70%, had upwards of 25% of customization in their ERP software. But if you ask people, if I don't customize as much, does this lower my cost of implementation? And the answer is yes. Now, in my opinion, if you do your homework, you should not need to customize more than 10%, especially if you go with a multi-tier solution. Ideal customization, less than 20%. I personally say should be less than 10, 15 at most. What about your implementation costs? If we looked, again, you look, there's over 60%, over 80% of the people said that they were less than 25% over budget. But if you look at on budget or less, that's almost 50%, 43% were on budget or under budget. Why? Because they did their homework, they knew what they needed, they set the appropriate budget when they created it, they set the proper expectations, and when they went through their project, they managed their project, knew exactly what they needed to do, and came in on budget or under budget. The people that didn't, right? Remember, you're spending almost 6.5% on your software solution. be it the software and consultancy and everything else, modifications if you need them. So you want to make sure that you understand what your budgets and tasks are and that you stay on budget. To do that, you need to have the right mix of people on your project team. Now, again, depending upon your organization and the size of the organization and what you're looking to implement, naturally you can have any number of people. My experience has been in the projects that I've been involved in, you need to have at least 3 to 5 full-time equivalents. Now, that might equate to 10 people 50% of the time, but you need to have at least 3 to 5 full-time equivalents to have a successful project. If you don't, what happens? You might end up with project delays because these people down here aren't giving you the answers you need on a timely basis. You may not have the right mix of people. So again, you have to make sure that you're staffing your project with people that are knowledgeable of what needs to happen, decision makers that can make the decision, people that are reliable and will get the answer for you within the time allotted. Simply throwing more people from your company onto a project is not going to guarantee you success. Project duration, right? Again, look at this. 43% are on schedule or under schedule. Why? Because they're the same organizations that understood what the project was meant to be, understood the deliverables, set the expectations before the project started, had a project plan that they can march to, and had the right people. Those people that are on this side didn't do those things. So again, we need to make sure that you exceed your initial estimate, okay? On schedule, under schedule projects, 43%, right? But it still was an increase over 2016 when only 25% were on schedule. Why? Because in 2017, people understood the need to make sure that you did all those other things. And again, this should be no surprise to you, right? The top 3, data. Not understanding your data, not cleansing your data, not consolidating your data. Project scope, not having the right people or understanding what the project should entail. Now, nobody says that your project can't extend scope, but there should not be so many unknowns that pop up that you need to keep changing scope. Everything, 99%, 95% should have been identified and known before the project even started, right? And again, sometimes you have resource constraints and priorities that conflict with the resource. So you have to make sure that if Tom is on your project team, other people have to know that Tom's not going to be available. And if you can't set that expectation day one, then you know you need to change your project timeline or other factors in the project. Data, expanded scope. So if we look side by side, there is a correlation, right? Now, you might say to yourself, well, why? Well, naturally, the longer the project goes, the more it's going to cost you. So there is a correlation. A project is a 3-legged stool: time, resources, and money. And it's a very tricky balance for all 3. But if you plan everything else out right, you should be able to meet your expectations. And if you meet your expectations, what should you get? You should get better information with more reliability. You should get better productivity from your people and more efficiencies. You should get a lot of things. You should not be in this 1%. If you're doing a project, you should get 100% of some type of benefit that you've identified as you needing in your organization. So, how long should your project take? And how long should you wait in order to realize all these benefits? Well, again, look at here. Look at your top 3. Here we have 58% have realized their benefits in less than 12 months, right? That's what you should do. You should be able to get a return on your investment, realize your benefit in less than a year. Now, certain benefits are going to take longer than others. They're being generous, saying 18 to 24 months. I would say be aggressive and look to get your benefits in less than a year. And again, how long to recoup costs? Up to 3 years, you can look and you can see. You have 17%, you have 15%, you have another 11% here, less than a year, 15%. So you can see that within 3 years, the majority of people have realized their benefit. But I would say you want to struggle and you want to make sure that you get your benefit back in at least 1 to 2 years. So you want to be in this sweet spot, right? You want to be in the 1 to 2 years. Take time to understand what it is you're looking to do. Understand the processes that you're trying to put in place. Understand your people and their resistance to change. Make sure you have people that are going to buy in. Make sure that they understand what it is they're trying to do. Work with the right vendor. If you do all of these things with an appropriate project plan, you're going to get this return on your investment, okay? And you should be able to do all of that by what? Minimizing the disruption to the business. You should not have the business go more than 4 weeks and have to worry about doing things, right? Everything should be shaken out. Everything should be good within the first 2 to 4 weeks. Minimize the disruption to your business. Conduct your due diligence and testing. Make sure that you do your training. Make sure that your conference room pilots and your user acceptance testing, everything is fine. Don't test 4 different kinds of sales orders when you use 10 different kinds of sales orders. Don't test 1 or 2, test 100. You need to do volume testing. You need to do testing across the board. You need to look at everything. Organizational change management. You want little or no focus, you're going to fail. You want to make sure that you have an intense focus on change management. You want people to be able to realize that this is what they need to do. At the end of the day, nothing in your project is related to the technical features of the software. Nothing is the software's fault. It's the fault of you not understanding your business reengineering or your change management process. Software can't cause you to fail. It's you understanding business and your organization. So, make sure you improve business process. Don't look to be this 18% that did nothing. Many of the organization's processes are broken and inefficient. For you to simply do what you have today is not the most efficient thing for you to do when implementing ERP. Hence, another reason to get a firm to come in and look at your organization to see what you're doing and if you're doing it right or not, right? Cost of inefficiency is a very tangible thing, right? So understand that your business process should be reevaluated and should marry what the process is in the software. Never underestimate that importance. So when we look at ERP software vendors, what are the top 10? We have, IQMS, we have SysPro, we have Sage, Microsoft, NetSuite, we have Oracle, we have IFS, we have SAP, Infor, and Epicor. And as I said, based upon your organization, based upon its size, based upon its need, you may opt to go with Microsoft, or you may opt to go with SAP. But here's the one thing I'll tell you to do. Make sure that whatever solution you look to go for, especially if it's a SaaS offering, Make sure that it's a reliable vendor. It's a vendor that's going to be in the marketplace for a while. It's somebody that's going to be able to support your business, okay? Don't look to just buy a product because it's out there and it sounds nice. Make sure you do your homework. So when we look at all these vendors, especially if we look at the top three we talked about, when we talk about, you know, JD Edwards, Oracle, when we talk about SAP and Microsoft, if you look at the Nucleus research study from about a year ago, you'll see that SAP, this is where they fall in the quadrant of being able to provide for clients. You'll see that this is where Microsoft lays, and then you'll see that this is where Oracle plays. And you'll see each one of those circles is a different product offering by those vendors. But again, you have to understand, where do you want to be in this quadrant? You know, where do you want to be? Hopefully all of you want to be up here, you know, a leader. So you look and make sure that your software can get you where you want to go. So again, Oracle, JD Edwards is still a leader in the marketplace, but that doesn't mean that it's the only one. You have NetSuite here, right? You have eBiz, some other things. So now let's quickly talk about what you need to do to select your ERP solution. I'm going to tell you right now that the most important things are these three right here. You need to understand, what is it you're looking to do? What is it your business needs? You need to understand, what is their criticality within your organization. Entering a journal entry may not be as important as being able to track labor and overhead, right? So you have to understand. And then when you send out your RFI or RFP, you have to make sure you're asking the vendor the right question. You have to make sure you're asking them to give you the right information. You need to develop a script and not have the vendor just show you what they think the software and what you want to do. You need to understand that certain things every vendor can do, so forget about whittling vendors down for that. Look at what is really important and see, does the vendor meet that? Hold your demo and then grab your solution. Quickly get down to three. All of them are going to be able to navigate. All of them are going to be able to enter a check, right? You have all of that viability done. They're viable vendors. They've been around for a while, right? You're going to get a scripted demo of your data, puts you in charge of how it works and what you want to see. Certain data for the demo is fine from the vendor because it's the process that you're looking at. More importantly, whatever's critical to you in your company, make sure you see it, right? Again, a lot of ERP packages do the same thing. Get that 20% that's unique to you and make sure they can do it. Involve your staff in the selection. And I mean all areas. Even though you're just doing logistics and manufacturing, still get HR involved. What happens if there's some kind of safety related issue, or what happens if there's some kind of certification that people need? Get all facets of your organization involved in the selection process. Don't do lengthy demos. 3 days worth of demos from every vendor. People are going to sit there in the room. After the first 3 days, they're really not going to know what's going to happen. Everything is going to blur together, you know? And certain things, don't waste your people's time on that. Don't, you know, have them talk about reference checks and things of that nature when they're coming in for the demo. That should already be done. So in general, how long do all these things take? You should be able to produce an RFP in your organization in 2 weeks. You should give vendor a reasonable amount of time to reply. Don't give it to them and want it back in a week. There's a lot of things they need to look at and do. You want to digest it and then follow up with the vendor. You want to take some time to develop your own scripts and then see that in a demo process. And then you're going to make your decision. So all of these things together, it's four months. So don't start today, January 3rd, and expect that you're going to make a decision on March 1st. you're not going to be able to do justice to all these areas in only 5 weeks, 6 weeks. It's a lengthy process. So if you know you're moving forward, you should be starting some of these things now, because time doesn't stop, right? And things don't remain constant. So you have to make sure you understand exactly what it is you want to do. You want your company to be all that it can be. You want to make sure that you're talking to people that understand and are experts in what you're doing, not only software, but even the implementation side. And you want to make sure that that person that's doing that implementation has industry experience and that product knowledge, so that they can turn around and give you that value that your organization needs. So find a partner that's going to be able to know the surface and understand the business and understand the industry, that's going to be able to jump right into your organization, but more importantly is going to turn around and get to the bottom of what it is you're exactly looking for. Because believe it or not, you may have ended up just here, where your issues go all the way down to here. So find a vendor that's going to be able to come in and talk to you and understand what's going on. So remember, your past performance is going to speak volumes about your likelihood for success. You're not going to solve your problems with the same thinking that you had when the problem was created. You have to turn around and think positive, because whatever you decide to do is what your organization is going to become. You don't want to simply survive, right? You want to be able to become better. So when something bad's going to happen, you can either let it define you or let it destroy you, or you can strengthen and get better as an organization. Okay? So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Ms. Bacon, and she'll finish up for the rest of the day. Okay, Brooke? Are you there?
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
That's all right.
All right. Thank you so much, Tom. All right. So, can you see my screen?
You can take it away. Yes, I can, Brooke. You're
okay,
good.
Perfect. So now I'd like to cover a few follow-up items, and then we can move on to our question and answer section of our webcast. Our webcast today is part of GSI's free ongoing educational webcast series, and all of our upcoming webcasts are listed here on the screen. And if you'd like to register for any of these, they're free, and you can go to our website at getgsi.com. If you'd like to sign up for our weekly emails on upcoming webcasts or our monthly newsletter, just go to getgsi.com, and you'll go to the bottom of the screen and click on the link for each of those. All right, so I see we already have several questions submitted, and I would like to remind everybody that if you'd still like to submit a question, you can do so using the questions panel on the GoToWebinar console window on the right of your screen. And if you minimized it earlier, please click the left-facing arrow to re-display the questions panel.
So if you want, Brooke, I'll jump in and I'll just read the questions and answer. Right now, we just have one question showing up, and that question's from Josh. And Josh is asking, how do I, understand the appropriate solution for my organization? And the answer I would say to you, Josh, is we have to step back and you have to say to yourself, what is it that your organization does, right? What are you in? Are you in oil and gas? Are you in pharmaceutical? Are you in financial services, things of that nature? So the first thing I would say to you is I would then say, okay, what solutions, what software, what ERP works best for those types of industries? Who has a solution there? And you're going to have a handful, right? You're going to have a lot of people. Then what I would do is I would say, okay, in your organization, draft out what are those processes that are causing you angst today? What are those processes that are you looking at to make your organization better? And then I would start to whittle that list down to say who can meet those things. And what I would do is if you're having trouble even identifying what those needs are or having trouble assimilate that back to a software product, I would turn around and I would say, hey, let me reach out to an organization to come in and help me build that scenario. Let me reach out to an organization to come in and say, hey, help me identify what my gaps are, what my questions and needs are, and put together this RFI, RFP kind of document and help me walk through the process. Or better yet, let me have an organization just come in and do an analysis and a business value assessment or technology assessment to say, hey, what can we do to make, our lives, my company's lives easier? And, GSI can do all of those things for you. We don't have to implement software. We don't have to sell you the software. We can be that organization that can come in and be your independent set of eyes to help you build that scenario. So that's what I would do. I would, step back and I would say, spend the time up front to truly understand your organization and what it is you're looking to do. Because if you're in an IT department, your C-level people simply say, hey, upgrade. They don't understand all of the requirements and parameters of an upgrade. And you don't want to fall into that 1%, 5% of organizations that just upgraded and have the same old system doing the same old thing, costing me the same amount of money. Software systems today can save organizations a lot of time and money, can become more efficient for your organization. Yes, you have to understand there could be some additional outlay up front, but to get into the 21st, 22nd century, this is what you need to do. So with that, Ms. Brooke, Josh was the only one that asked a question. I guess everybody else is frozen. They're from the East Coast, so who knows?
Yeah, I'm in that category.
You're in the frozen state, okay.
I'm in the tundra, yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tom and Josh, for your question today. I just wanted to follow up with, just as a follow-up from today's webcast, we ask that you complete a short 1-minute survey when you exit. You will be receiving an email with a link to our resource center on our website where you can access the recording from today's webcast, as well as the copy of the presentation. After today's webcast, we will do the drawing for the $25 Amazon gift card. Anyone that attended the entire webcast and completes the survey will be eligible to win, and we will notify the winner. Thank you all again so much for attending our presentation today, and thank you again, Tom, and we hope you have a great day.
All right, enjoy, everybody. Thank you, Brooke.
Thanks. Bye.